Collins Peapod Readers. Jim and the Monster Party. What's in this story? Listen and say. Invitation. Monster. Frog. Costume. Prize. Jellyfish. Mirror. Dragon. The invitation. Jim was at a new school. He didn't know many children in his class. "Don't worry, Jim," said his mum. "You can make new friends." But Jim knew that it wasn't easy to make friends. Tom was in Jim's class. He often smiled at Jim. "I would like to be friends with Tom," thought Jim. One day, Tom invited Jim to his party. "Come to my party, Jim," he said. "Yes, please," said Jim. "I would like to come." Jim showed the party invitation to Mum. "Fantastic," said Mum. "It's a monster party." "Oh," said Jim. "What's a monster party?" "People wear monster costumes," said Mum. "A monster party has monster food and monster games." Now Jim was worried. He thought about monsters playing games. He thought about monster food. "I think monster parties are scary," he said. Jim thought about the food that monsters like to eat. He thought about frog sandwiches and jellyfish ice cream. He thought about green onion milkshakes. He thought about a big monster picnic. "I wouldn't like to eat monster food," thought Jim. "Monster food gives people a stomachache. I could take some cheese sandwiches to the party." Jim thought about the games that monsters like playing. He thought about monsters on skateboards. He thought about monsters playing table tennis. He thought about monsters in the playground. "I can't play monster games," thought Jim. "Monster games give people a headache. I could take my book to the party." Jim worried about his clothes. Jim didn't want the children at the monster party to laugh at him. "I don't have a monster costume," he thought. "I don't like monsters." That night, Jim couldn't sleep. He was too worried. He thought about all the problems with a monster party. Jim thought, "Do lots of scary monsters go to monster parties?" The costume. In the morning, Mum looked at Jim. "What's the matter, Jim?" she asked. "I'm worried about the monster party. I don't like monster food or monster games, and I don't have a monster costume." Mum smiled. "Don't worry, Jim. Monster parties have nice party food. You can eat cake and ice cream. The games are fun. Monsters don't really go to monster parties, and we can make a monster costume. Jim wasn't worried now. Jim and Mum got a big box, a lot of paper, and Mum's old coat. Jim got his paints. Then they made a monster costume. Jim wore the costume and looked in the mirror. "Grrr," he said. "This is good. I'm a funny monster, not a scary monster." "You are a fantastic monster, Jim," said Mum. The party. It was the day of the party. Jim was worried again, but he wore his monster costume and took Tom's present. Then Jim and his mum went to Tom's house. Jim stood outside Tom's house. Then he saw a big scary shape inside the house. "Oh dear, it's a monster," thought Jim. The door opened. "Hello, Jim," said the scary shape. "Come in." It wasn't a monster. It was Tom's dad. "Hi, Jim. Come and play in the garden," said Tom. Jim and Tom ran around the garden and had monster races. They played monster games and danced. Everyone liked Jim's funny monster costume. There were prizes at the party, but Jim didn't win the prize for the best monster dance. He didn't win the prize for the fastest monster race. But Jim didn't feel sad, because the monster party was a lot of fun. Then Tom's dad said, "Come here, Jim. You win the prize for the best monster costume." Jim got a big box of monster chocolates as his prize. He gave everyone a chocolate from the box. Thank you, Jim," said Tom. Then everyone sat down and ate some monster food. The monster food was very nice. Jim ate some monster cheese sandwiches and some monster chocolate cake. He drank orange juice from a monster glass. After the monster food, they had a monster treasure hunt. Tom's dad hid little toy monsters in the garden, in the trees, under the flowers, and behind the wall. Jim found 3 toy monsters. At the end of the party, Mum took Jim home. "Did you have fun, Jim?" she asked. "Yes," said Jim. "We had monster fun. It was the best party." After the party. After the party, Jim and Tom were good friends. Tom came to play at Jim's house. They went to the park after school. Jim sat next to Tom in class. Tom always had lots of friends. Now Jim had lots of friends too. Then it was Jim's birthday. "I have a great idea for a party," he told Tom. Jim gave Tom an invitation to a dragon party. "Come to my dragon party. Dragon games, dragon costumes, fantastic dragon food. Love, Jim."